Good afternoon, I'm Bakhtiar Sanova and you're watching A News. Now the major stories making headlines today. 3 killed in the recent attack in Ukraine's Pavlograd as country mourns the victims of a previous deadly attack which took 12 lives. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva warns of a major test for global economy. EU High Representative and Vice President of European Commission Kaja Kallas visits Baku. Russian drones attacked the Ukrainian city of Pavlograd, killing 3 and injuring 14 people. The attack damaged homes and left a crater in the middle of a residential street. The strike follows the deadly bombardments in Kiev on Thursday, where 12 civilians were killed and dozens injured. Today, Ukrainians are in mourning. Candles flicker on makeshift memorials, while families gather in silence, grieving yet another day of war and loss. A senior Russian military officer was killed in a car explosion in Balashkika, east of Moscow, according to Russia's investigative committee. The officer was identified as Yaroslav Moskalik, main operations director of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces. He was killed when a homemade explosive device detonated. Russia's investigative committee has opened a criminal case, but no suspects have been named. Moskalik, a major general, had participated in several high-level Russian delegations. This follows a series of high-ranking Russian military assassinations since the start of the war in Ukraine. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says the United States and European allies agree that Russia is a long-term threat to NATO. After talks with U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday, Rutte said that all NATO members agree Russia poses a long-term threat to NATO territory and the entire Euro-Atlantic area. He also reassured that despite Washington's growing focus on the Asia-Pacific, the United States remains committed to NATO.
Yes. So I worked with him for 4 years between 2010 and 2014.
In his recent interview with Time magazine, U.S. President Donald Trump discussed a range of topics, including his stance on tariffs and trade imbalances, his critical approach to China, and his views on the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war.
In an exclusive interview with Time magazine, U.S. President Donald Trump delved into key issues, including tariffs, U.S.-China relations, the Russia-Ukraine war and Middle East tensions, offering fresh insights into his administration's approach. Trump blamed the Biden administration for the U.S. losing $2 trillion in trade, calling it unsustainable and asserting that the country was carrying other nations on its back. He criticized past trade deals, particularly with China. He highlighted his administration's response by imposing tariffs on China, totaling hundreds of billions of dollars, as a way to address these unfair trade practices. Trump stressed that while the market fluctuates, the U.S. is poised to bring in substantial revenue, with high tariffs considered a total victory for the country's long-term prosperity. He explained that the tariffs, especially on China and India, are part of his strategy to rebuild the U.S. economy, pointing out the return of manufacturing jobs and companies coming back to the U.S. President Trump also claimed that Chinese President Xi Jinping had called him, but this was later disputed by a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson who stated that the characterization of the call was inaccurate. Turning to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Trump called his previous statement about ending the war on day one a figurative exaggeration. He remarked that the war, which has persisted for 3 years, would never have happened under his presidency, attributing the escalation to President Biden's actions. Trump also said Crimea will stay with Russia, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky understands that, and everybody understands that it's been with them for a long time. Trump attributed the escalation in Gaza to the Biden administration, blaming them for allowing Iran to regain financial power by lifting sanctions. He claimed that under his administration, Iran was broke, which prevented funding for groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. However, under Biden, Iran accumulated $300 billion, enabling them to support terrorism again. Trump also addressed the possibility of direct talks with Iran, confirming he would be open to meeting with its leaders. Regarding Israel's stance on Iran, Trump denied stopping Israel from attacking Iran's nuclear sites, but emphasised that he preferred diplomacy over military action. US President shared his vision for the Middle East, indicating his diplomatic successes like the Abraham Accords and the Saudi-Israeli normalization process. He took credit for crippling Iran's financial capacity to fund terrorism and stated that under his administration, Iran was broke. However, he warned that if diplomacy fails, he would not hesitate to act to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons.
US President Donald Trump claims that a meeting had taken place between Washington and Beijing regarding tariff negotiations. However, Chinese officials swiftly denied that any such talks occurred. Despite the mixed signals, global investors interpreted the situation as a possible sign of de-escalation in the trade war. So what is really going on behind the headlines, and how should we interpret the market's optimism in the face of conflicting political narratives? Joining us to unpack these developments is Qindo Xu, political analyst from Beijing, China. Mr. Xu, thank you for joining us. Mr. Xu, first, how do you interpret Trump's insistence that talks happened despite Beijing's flat denial? What might be the strategic motive behind such a claim?
Well, I think, basically you ask the question, you ask the people in the middle, whose words do you trust, do you believe? Trump is well known, his lies. He has proven lies, basically, both inside the US and internationally. Well, China is a country known for its stress on stability and consistency. So if there is a negotiation, I'm pretty sure the Chinese side will acknowledge as it is. But obviously, for the US, there is a reason for Trump to say in the first place, oh, in the morning, there's a meeting. And when reporter asked him, who are they at the meeting? And he said, oh, it doesn't matter who they are. Obviously, maybe there's a meeting, but that does not mean there's a negotiation on the trade tariffs. So there's a difference. Trump could be right, could be saying something true, but obviously he's not calling it a serious trade negotiation between China and the US. Secondly, most likely, he's lying simply because he needs the lies to boost the market performance, because he can't afford to have a diving of the stock market and also the rising of the yields of the US Treasury bonds. That will create a lot of problem for his budget issue, because if you want to borrow money and you pay more, so that will be a difficult task for him. His idea is like, by imposing tariff, I can collect a lot of cash over there. But no, without basically no trade between China and the US, he's collecting very little money to no money. So he's under severe pressure. First from Tim Cook, from the Apple, and then he's from direct pressure from the CEOs, the big companies, retail giants like Walmart, because they are warning him in the near future there will be empty shelf. For people for the summer break for kids, so that will be a serious pressure on him. Let's wait and see.
But Mr. Xu, markets seem to respond positively. Are investors simply optimistic, or is there something deeper at play?
At first, there is a positive response of the market. And then if you look at the day's trading, it increased just a bit, not that much, because at the bottom of the hearts of those traders, I think people understand that there's uncertainty. There's like a time bomb which is not diffused, and the problem remains there. He does not have a serious negotiation with the Chinese side over tariff, and he, the latest news, like he said he received a phone call from President Xi Jinping, but also denied by the Chinese side. This is getting ridiculous. He's basically playing like a game, like a little kid. As long as I said something is going on, or U.S. is trying to negotiate with the Chinese side, and then there's a positive response from the market, and he needs this positive response. So that's why there's an incentive for him to lie, to continue to lie. But I think the market and people will understand that there's no talk. And the Chinese side, if you look at that, today there's a highest level meeting of the Politburo Bureau of the Communist Party of China, basically focusing on the issue, what we are going to do to deal with this international trade war issue. Mostly they are focusing on domestic policies. So the Chinese side is looking at the long haul conflict with the US side. The Chinese side is looking at boosting domestic consumption to deal with the impact from this trade tariff from the United States. No, the Chinese side is not yielding, is not caving in to Donald Trump. And he has to find a reason someday, probably, and he will reduce the tariffs. We're going to see.
Mr. Xu, thank you very much for talking to A News, and thank you very much for this discussion.
Thank you.
IMF chief Kristalina Georgieva says China must tackle its property crisis, expand social protections and empower the private sector to boost long-term growth. She also warned that ASEAN economies are vulnerable to U.S. trade tensions and should strengthen regional trade. Addressing speculation around the Fed Chair Jerome Powell's future, Georgieva stressed that central bank independence is vital for global stability. She also highlighted that global economy is entering challenging times.
Very open economy. We have significantly downgraded our projections for global growth. Major trade policy shifts have spiked uncertainty off the charts, accompanied by tighter financial conditions and higher market volatility. Simply put, the world economy is facing a new and major test, and it faces it with policy buffers depleted by the shocks of recent years.
Turkey is pushing to ease trade barriers with the United States. Trade Minister Ömer Bolat says he will formally request the removal of a 10% tariff during his upcoming visit to Washington next month. The announcement comes as Turkey continues to expand its global trade strategy. Turkish Trade Minister announced that he will formally request the removal of a 10% tariff imposed by the United States during his upcoming visit to Washington next month. Bolat made a statement during his visit to Japan, where he's leading a delegation of government officials and private sector representatives aimed at boosting economic cooperation. Speaking at the Osaka Expo 2025, Bolat underlined that Turkey and the United States maintain a strong trade partnership. He pointed out that the bilateral trade is currently balanced, with the United States enjoying a trade surplus. According to Bolat, this makes the 10% tariff imposed by Washington an unnecessary measure, since such protections typically target countries with which the United States has a trade deficit. Bolat said the removal of the tariff will be a concrete demand during his meetings in Washington. He also highlighted Turkey's far country strategy, which focuses on increasing trade with distant markets, particularly in the Americas. The long-term goal, Bolat noted, is to raise the bilateral trade volume with the United States to $100 billion. Turning to broader concerns, the minister warned that ongoing uncertainty in global trade could have long-term negative consequences. He expressed hope that more countries will recognize the risks of shrinking trade and will instead work toward a multilateral global trade system governed by shared rules and common sense. Bolat emphasized that declining trade ultimately leads to a drop in global income, a situation that benefits no one. The funeral of Pope Francis, the first Latin American pontiff, takes place Saturday in St. Peter's Square. The 88-year-old pontiff died on Monday after suffering a stroke. Over 200,000 mourners and 130 delegations, including 50 world leaders, are expected to attend the Pope's funeral.
Pope Francis, the first Latin American pontiff, will be laid to rest Saturday in St. Peter's Square, Vatican City, after his death at 88 from a stroke. Around 130 delegations and 50 heads of state are confirmed to attend his funeral, including U.S. President Donald Trump and leaders from Argentina, Italy, France, Germany, the UK, Ukraine, Brazil, and EU institutions. Residents and visitors come to mourn for the Pope, with around 200,000 people expected to attend his funeral.
It's a very strong feeling to be here. He's the only Pope we've had who came from South America, a Pope who had many good intentions for the Catholic Church. He cleaned up all the bad, maybe not all of it, but he tried. He was a big part of the lives of Catholics, like me. This farewell was very sad, but I thank God that I was able to see him.
I feel a lot of emotion. I am grateful to come here to greet Pope Francis.
Francis will be the first pope to be buried outside of the Vatican, as he requested to be laid to rest at the Basilica di Santa Maria Maggiore. Cardinals continued to meet in daily general congregations to discuss the qualities needed in the next pontiff. While it's too early to conclave decisions, 113 of the 252 cardinals have already gathered, with more arriving.
We will pay homage to Pope Francis and show recognition for his work. He was a free man who loved people. He humanized the Church without desacralizing it.
Cardinal Francois Javier Bustillo described the mood among cardinals as one of trust and hope. They will decide whether to continue Francis's progressive reforms or shift to conservatism. Only cardinals under 80 can vote in the conclave, set to determine the future of the 1.4 billion member Roman Catholic Church. A conclave is not expected to begin before May 6.
Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev received Kaja Kallas, High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. The meeting highlighted strong EU-Azerbaijan ties, especially in the energy sector. Kallas expressed the EU's interest in deepening cooperation, calling Azerbaijan a reliable partner. President Ilham Aliyev noted the success of the Southern Gas Corridor, now supplying 10 European countries, and stressed Azerbaijan's expanding role in renewable energy and regional transport. Both sides also discussed efforts to ensure long-term peace in the South Caucasus and the ongoing normalization process between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Azerbaijan expects Armenia to drop territorial claims and dismantle obsolete Minsk group structures as part of the peace process. Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov said at a press conference following his meeting with EU's Kaja Kallas. He pointed to key concerns, including Armenia's need to eliminate constitutional provisions that challenge Azerbaijan's territorial integrity. Bayramov also highlighted the ongoing landmine issues in Azerbaijan's post-conflict areas, underscoring the urgent need for broader EU support. European Union High Representative Kaja Kallas welcomed progress on a draft peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan and reaffirmed the EU's commitment to lasting peace. She also pledged continued EU assistance for demining and reconstruction efforts, underlining Azerbaijan's important role for the EU.
Of course, colleagues from the European Union are well aware of Azerbaijan's position. Azerbaijan's stance is not a new one. It has been on the table for over 2 years. Among the key issues is, first and foremost, the expectation that Armenia removes claims against Azerbaijan's territorial integrity and sovereignty from its constitution through the necessary amendments. At the same time, there is the matter of abolishing the structures related to the Minsk process, which no longer hold any functional relevance. In this regard, steps are currently expected from Armenia.
gözlənilir.
Azerbaijan is an important partner in the region. It's appreciated energy partner for the European Union, and together we have made significant progress in strengthening our ties. You have helped the European Union to diversify its energy supplies and strengthen our own energy security at the time when the world is facing unprecedented challenges. We are also grateful for Azerbaijan's humanitarian support for Ukraine and for your leadership in hosting the COP29 climate summit last year. Multilateral efforts like these show that when countries work together, we can make a real.
Amid shifting European defense priorities and the changing security landscape, Norway is calling for closer integration of Turkey into European defense initiatives. During a joint press conference in Ankara, Norwegian Foreign Minister Espen Barth Eide emphasized the strategic importance of including Turkey in Europe's evolving security architecture.
And on the specific issues,
Norwegian Foreign Minister Espen Barth Eide advocated for Turkey's inclusion in European defense initiatives during a joint press conference with Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan in Ankara on Thursday, highlighting the strategic importance of both NATO nations in the evolving European security architecture.
And I explained to my good colleague, Minister Fidan, that Norway last year signed a strategic agreement with the EU on security and defense, where we made very clear that our collective defense lies in NATO, but we're happy to be part of and contribute to the development of armaments, initiatives of standardization, and so on in the broader European family. And we believe that because of that, we are now being able to be more part of these new European initiatives on European Defence Readiness 2030, and I would very much support a similar development for Turkey, because I think it is in our shared benefit that these developments involve, in principle, all European NATO countries. We welcome an increased EU interest in this area, but we believe that it would be good if it was open, and we see some progress, but a lot of work remaining.
Aida's remarks come as European nations re-evaluate their defense strategies in response to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and a possible shift in the U.S. engagement in the region.
If we are now seeing a situation where the United States will become less engaged, this is something we do not hope. But if that is happening, it means that the rest of us have to do more and to take an even broader political, military, economic responsibility for steering this in a good direction. So we had very good conversations about this.
Espen Barth Eide and Fidan also reaffirmed their commitment to a permanent peace in Ukraine that fully respects its sovereignty and territorial integrity, an alignment that highlights the shared vision of Turkey and Norway in confronting European security challenges. As Europe builds a more inclusive defense framework, both Ankara and Oslo are asserting their roles as indispensable contributors to stability across the continent. Baku is at the center of the global space conversation as it hosts the Space Technology Conference 2025. Experts from around the world have convened in Azerbaijan's capital to discuss the future of space innovation and sustainability. Our very own Anastasia Lavrina has more on these.
We are coming to you live from the heart of the Space Technology Conference 2025, where day 2 of this groundbreaking event is now officially underway. Following a dynamic first day packed with visionary speeches and high-level meetings, today's agenda promises even deeper insights into the future of space tech and international collaboration. With around 400 delegates from across 35 countries, today's discussions center around 3 major themes driving the space industry forward: collaboration, innovation, and investment. One of the key sessions this morning dives into new space, the bold technologies transforming how we access and operate in space. From reusable launch systems to miniaturized satellites, it's all about making space more accessible, more efficient and more impactful. Later today, the spotlight shifts the regional impact with a focus on satellite connectivity for local challenges, including disaster response, environmental monitoring and rural communications. The focus is also on regional collaboration and commercial innovation. We're expecting panel talks on the evolution of Earth observation technologies, satellite data for climate resilience, and existingly the emerging space economy in Central Eurasia. What makes this conference so important is its ability to connect the global with the local. Azerbaijan, through the space agency Azercosmos, is positioning itself as a key hub for space innovation in the region. And the memorandum signed here could open new partnerships, research initiatives and technology transfers. Stay tuned as A News will bring you the latest.
In our previous bulletin, our Leila Masimova discussed the Space Technology Conference, which is underway in Baku, with Ismail Rasulov, head of the Department for Technology Transfer and Innovations at the Space Research and Technology Agency of Uzbekistan. Mr. Rasulov shared his insights on space cooperation among the Turkic states and what the phrase "Rise of the Cosmic Turk" means in the context of the Uzbek Space Agency and the future of aerospace development.
So the current moment, often described as the rise of Cosmic Turk, reflects a growing interest and investment among Turkic states in the space sector. This development highlights not only technological progress, but also a broader desire for deeper cooperation and shared vision across the region. For Uzbek Space Agency, this is an important and promising time. Around the world, space is becoming an increasingly strategic domain, and it's essential for every country to strengthen its capabilities and find constructive partnership. At the same time, the collaboration within the Organization of Turkic States creates new opportunities for exchange, whether through data sharing, joint satellite projects, joint initiatives, or coordinated educational efforts. And we believe space should remain a platform for peaceful progress, innovations, and mutual understanding.
Baku is set to welcome leading NGOs from 110 countries representing Global South as a part of a historic moment, the establishment of the Global South NGO platform. The initiative put forward by the civil society of Azerbaijan gained support from 140 NGOs representing different geographic regions such as Asia, Africa, Latin America, Oceania. Also, more than 1,000 foreign NGOs issued a joint statement defending this initiative. In the briefing for the Global South NGO platform, it was also mentioned that the forum set to take place in Baku highlights Azerbaijan's role as a bridge between the global North and South.
This initiative was put forward during COP29. We are very proud that the initiative of Azerbaijani NGOs has gained such global support for the first time worldwide. Achieving Baku's turnaround during COP29 has created great sympathy for the state of Azerbaijan. This event is a new beginning in the life of Azerbaijan's civil society. Azerbaijani NGOs will establish new relations with NGOs of the Global South region and deepen cooperation.
At the initiative of the Nomad Mania Club, travelers from 30 different countries have visited Karabakh and eastern Zengezur regions of Azerbaijan. During the trip, they observed reconstruction and restoration efforts underway in Shusha, Khankendi and Agdam. The main objective is to present these territories to the global community as symbols of revival.
This latest international expedition, which embodies the spirit of discovery and reconstruction, has brought together influential travelers from different parts of the world, explorers from countries including the United States, United Kingdom, Germany, France, China, Australia, and New Zealand, gathered in Karabakh to witness the transformation of the region.
I'm happy to be here. This is something unique as a traveler to come here. I couldn't really imagine these piece of actions, of government actions that are far away from Baku are here.
During the 3-day visit, the delegation toured Shusha, Kankendi, and Agdam. Led by Harry Mitsidis, founder of Nomad Mania and a globally renowned traveler, the group observed the large-scale restoration works being carried out across the liberated territories.
We stopped at a few places and saw the mosque and other places, and it's just amazing to see how well it's taken care of, how proud you are of the heritage and of this region.
This marks the 13th such expedition since the Azerbaijani government began granting access to international travelers.
This initiative is not only about crossing geographical border, but also marks a turning point on a deeper emotional level, once known as a region of geopolitical conflict. But these lands are now opening up to the world, not with soldiers, but with storytellers, journalists, and travelers.
The aim is to shift the narrative from destruction to renewal, presenting these lands as a testament to resilience and recovery.
We are impressed about the progressions which have been made since the last 3 years, and all the buildings that have been rebuilt in the liberated territories. So we are really very proud and thrilled and honored to be here.
We entered the mountainous area here in Karabakh. Then things changed dramatically because it was very beautiful, very nice landscape, and we enjoyed it actually very well.
Promoting the region through the concept of dark tourism plays a key role in this effort. This form of educational travel to post-conflict zones helps illustrate the historical, social and political transformation taking place in the region.
Thanks for spending a moment with A News. Until we meet again.